Good afternoon. I am Priscilla Monti. I'm the Senior Vice President for Programs and Communications with the Hampton Roads Chamber, and welcome to our first Chamber Education of 2021. We are excited to continue this series this year. The Hampton Roads Chamber works to be an inspiring igniter, and we hold these once a month Chamber education sessions, not only to highlight our members' expertise, but also to provide critical training to our businesses as everybody is trying to not just survive, but to thrive in this COVID-19 world. So we have a wonderful panel today. Our subject is telework, and many of us are doing that right now. And so we have some experts who are going to help us to ensure that we're doing it to the best way possible. Emily Cass is the manager of the Traffics program, a service of Hampton Roads Transit. She's been with Traffics for more than 6 years and has more than 15 years experience in marketing and communications. At Traffics, Emily manages the alternative commuting program development and implementation for regional employers and commuters with the mission to decrease traffic congestion and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Hampton Roads. When Emily first came to us with this idea for this chamber education, we were, confused. We were like, well, Traffics, you do transit. And so it works perfectly, and it makes perfect sense that Traffics and HRT is dedicated to this program. Robin Mack is also joining us. She's the CEO of Mack Global LLC and has been the telework consultant for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation's Telework VA program for the past 5 years. In her earlier years, she spearheaded the Virginia Department of Taxation's Telework Initiative, earning the 2008 Governor's Technology Award for the best telework initiative in the state for public sector. She currently serves as secretary on the board for the ACT Telework Council. And Chris Arabia is the manager of statewide mobility programs for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. He's been with DRPT for more than 15 years in DRPT's Public Transportation Division and has more than 25 years working in transportation demand management. At DRPT, Chris and commuter programs team conducts statewide marketing for Virginia's Tri-Transit, Telework Week, Bike to Work Week, van pooling, and Virginia's intercity bus service, Virginia Breeze. Among Chris's responsibilities is the administration of DRPT's statewide Telework Virginia program. And now I will hand it over to our wonderful panel to begin the program.
Thanks, Priscilla. Traffics is really happy to bring together DRPT and, of course, all the area employers to let you know about this amazing Telework VA program. A little bit about Traffics before we get started. We are the Region's Commuter Assistance Program, a service of Hampton Roads Transit. In areas where transit is not able to provide transportation service between point A and point B, commuters have other options through the Traffics program, such as carpooling, van pooling, biking, walking, and teleworking, of course. HRT serves 6 cities, while Traffics is in 17 cities and counties. In normal times, we would work with area employers and commuters to set up programs and offer benefits such as our guaranteed ride home program, van pool monthly subsidies, bike amenities such as bike repair stations and bike racks, and the Go Pass 365 annual bus program. And also ride matching and commuter rewards. Of course, these are not normal times. Teleworking is really on top of everyone's mind and employers. So we're excited to be the local Telework VA partner with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation and collaborate with the Chamber to bring this appropriate and relevant webinar. So I hope you guys all enjoy this, and please feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm sure Chris and Robin will be ready to answer them for you. So Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Priscilla, for having us today in your Chamber meeting. We're going to pull up the slides here in a second. All right, thank you. So today we're going to cover Telework Virginia. I'm going to give you a brief history of Telework Virginia, why we're doing what the purpose is, and we're also going to talk about the benefits. I think we're all learning we all know now the benefits of telework, but we're going to cover some more of that, and also some things that managers can do to make sure teleworking is successful, and then give you some best practice and tips and tell you how you can take advantage of Telework Virginia's free services. Okay, next slide. All right, so I always get asked, you know, how do you pronounce it? Is it Telework VA, Telework? So you could either way, Telework Virginia or Telework VA, both of those are acceptable. You notice there's an exclamation point after Telework, but before VA. When we created this, we were all about shouting Telework. You know, we wanted everyone to telework. Obviously, this was way before COVID, before everyone actually did teleworking. But Telework Virginia or Telework VA is the way to pronounce it. And it was created by my agency, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. And so for those of you who are not familiar with DRPT, we're an agency like VDOT. We're not nearly as big as VDOT, obviously, but we have we both of our agencies report to the Secretary of Transportation. And DRPT's mission is to facilitate and improve the mobility of citizens of Virginia and to promote the efficient transport of goods and people in a safe, reliable, and cost-effective manner. So basically, we have a lot to do with rail, freight rail. We have some freight rail programs, but also Amtrak. And we cover public transportation, like different types of transit services, and of course, Telework Virginia. When we first developed it, we implemented it in Northern Virginia way back in 2001, before anyone heard of COVID-19 or even thought that there would ever be a pandemic, the good old days. And we implemented it there because the main purpose of Telework Virginia is to mitigate traffic congestion. So thus the reason why you would say, why would a transportation agency be interested in telework, which is really kind of a business practice, a way to do business? Well, what we learned is that, you know, if we could get, you know, an employee to work from home 1 day a week and not drive 1 day a week, that would make a big impact on traffic. Next slide. So it's been a while. So we did expand it to the Richmond and Hampton Roads regions a while back. But our vision was always to have Telework Virginia available to any business in Virginia. And with COVID-19, you know, coming on, it just made it the urgency. It was just more urgent to do so. So now it's available to any business in Virginia. Next slide. And so going back to why we did it, you know, DRPT conducts some research, and also the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments in Washington, D.C. has been conducting a lot of research on telework. And what we were seeing, even prior to COVID, was that there is a significant number of people that could and would telework if their business had some type of telework program that would allow them to do that. Again, we're talking working from home 1 day a week, not the full-time telework that we're all doing now. But it was very much, you know, there was a potential there, and we just wanted to see if we could get more business to do telework programs. You know, could we get more cars off the road, and would that make a significant impact? Okay, next slide. So our purpose, our goal, our main objective of Telework Virginia is to work with private businesses and to have them develop formal telework programs and policies. And what we've learned is that a lot of businesses had telework programs, but they were kind of informal. They would let people telework ad hoc, you know, when the time was, oh, yeah, okay, you can telework today. But what we're trying to do is create these more formal policies so that there was an actual policy that said, you know, Joe or Jane could telework 1 day a week on Wednesday. And that was our goal. And obviously, once more businesses establish telework programs, that would increase the number of teleworkers in Virginia, and more businesses put telework programs means more teleworkers, means more cars off the road. And that was our end goal. Next. So how do we provide these services to businesses? So there are mainly 2 ways that the Telework Virginia program provides our services to the businesses in Virginia. Next slide. One way is through the Telework Virginia website, teleworkva.org. We just recently redesigned it, and so we hope it looks and navigates a little better. We're still a work in progress. We've got a lot of updating of our documents, but the teleworkva.org website is meant to be a one-stop resource for not only for employers, but also for the employees that are teleworking, to get tips and information, sample policies, just how to telework more successfully. A lot of information is there. But the second way we provide our telework program resources to you is, next slide, is through our telework assistants. And that's probably the best way, right? Everyone can go to the website, you can download information, but if you've got questions, who are you going to talk to? And that's where we do what we call technical assistance. That's the people that are going to talk to you, talk to your managers, employees to make telework successful your business. And that person is Robin Mack, who I'm going to turn now the presentation over to Robin, and she's going to give you a lot more information about how you can take advantage of Telework Virginia. Robin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Chris. So our focus with technical assistance is really helping employers try to strategize to implement or expand their telework program so that the infrastructure of the program is solid and sustainable for the long term. We assess the needs of the employers. We provide survey results that help steer key decisions. We develop policies and agreements that are necessary to establish the guidelines of the expectations of the program. And we try to maximize participation in the program by exploring and identifying suitable positions. Since the pandemic, employers are discovering that more positions are suitable to telework than they originally thought. But there are still a lot of questions, including how often positions should telework. And we try to help strategize with those types of positions. We also provide training for staff on telework best practices, as well as practical solutions for the challenges they face. We provide customized training for management staff that equips them with the tools and the resources they need to lead teleworkers and measure performance. So since the pandemic, we have reviewed a lot of survey data. And those survey data results from probably over a dozen sources say that when employers are asked if they will telework more going forward than they did prior to the pandemic, over 50% of them report that they will in some capacity. And so employers are seeing the benefits of telework despite the unconventional and unfortunate circumstances we've had to deal with. As the Telework VA program provides technical assistance to employers, we look to help them maximize the impact of their program. And that includes capitalizing on the many benefits that a robust telework program can deliver. Once the employer establishes the objectives that they hope to accomplish with their telework program, we help build the components of that program with those goals in mind. And certainly what you see here are some of the goals that employers have moving forward. So now that employers have experienced remote work and telework for the past 10 months as a result of the pandemic, they're thinking about how telework fits as they transition back to the office, and we can help them navigate through all of those decisions. In talking with some employers, their experiences have been really from one end of the spectrum to the other. We've heard from the employer who was never open to teleworking prior to the pandemic, and they now recognize how beneficial telework can be for their organization. So they're now ready for real conversation about how telework can be a part of their operating strategy going forward. On the other end of the spectrum, employers have struggled with telework, from technology issues to employees' positions that are not conducive to effectively perform their job duties. And so we try to make sure that those employers know that this pandemic remote work they're experiencing is so different from what we consider normal telework, without all of the emergency workarounds and the pandemic-related anxiety and stress and distractions that we have. And so in the beginning, employers were kind of scrambling for a quick fix. But now that we've been at this for a while, they're looking towards a sustainable telework strategy for the future. For many of them, the light bulb has gone off during this pandemic, and they now see that continuity of operations is not the only benefit of a telework program. They're talking about additional telework benefits like overhead savings, attracting top talent, improving retention, and increased productivity. So some of the specific areas that we're helping employers with right now deal with some of those difficult telework issues, like practical solutions to avoid working all the time and trying to unplug from the office. Things like knowing how often staff should telework going forward and when they transition back to the office. And then helping supervisors manage by results and not observation. But before we dive in further, I think it's important for everyone to sort of understand the difference between what we consider normal telework and this pandemic remote work that we're experiencing right now. So normally, organizations do have a telework policy in place or have at least outlined the expectations of telework. But of course, because of COVID-19, we were quickly forced into this emergency change. We really didn't have time to prepare ourselves for policies or prepare ourselves mentally, emotionally. And so these things have, caused us to be in disarray. And for almost a year, we're still a long ways away from things sort of returning to a normalcy. In normal telework, the average time that organizations allow employees to telework is 1 to 2 days per week. But we now have this unprecedented telework that, majority of us are working from home the majority of the time. Under normal telework, the position is deemed eligible and approved prior to teleworking based on the job duties. But we have staff that are currently working from home with unresolved IT issues and other issues that are affecting their performance. Companies usually provide some form of management and employee training, even if it's just IT training on the technology that will be used. But most of us have not received formal telework training, and specifically not on 100% remote working. You typically have a dedicated workspace for normal telework, but now our workspace is invaded with our spouses, our kids, and others. And certainly if you live alone, you may be dealing with isolation issues as well. You typically have at-home distractions that we have to deal with when we telework. But now there are a host of additional distractions due to the pandemic. For one, we're experiencing high levels of anxiety. We're concerned about our health as it relates to this pandemic and those around us. We're worried about trying to do our job and if we'll have a job. Childcare is still a real issue for many of us. We're worried about the economy, the strain on our finances. We're concerned about our loved ones and how the pandemic is impacting them. We are really dealing with the stress of it all. And now that the country is somewhat transitioning back to the workplace, in some ways, it's a little bit more stressful than the beginning of the pandemic because it comes with a host of other concerns. Employers and managers have to be able to adjust to what's happening around us and assess the impact on our staff. So this pandemic has fundamentally changed the way in which we will really work going forward. And as we transition back to the office and try to enforce social distancing guidelines in the workplace, employers are incorporating telework into their transition strategy to help address immediate concerns from employees like parents that need to stay home to assist their kids with virtual learning, those with underlying health issues, and that want to really minimize their exposure to coworkers, and those that have elderly or health compromised people that are living in their homes. Global Workplace Analytics estimates that 25 to 30% of the workforce will be working from home multiple days a week by the end of 2021. So we're beginning to see a big shift from the primary way of working in the office to a more widely accepted norm of remote work and telework. And in the meantime, the Telework VA program will continue to help employers navigate through these times of uncertainty. We know that more business strategies will involve telework. So I want to go over the benefits, some of the benefits of telework that you may not be aware of. Telework helps improve recruitment and retention. Employers are able to expand their talent pool and attract top talent and qualified employees because employees are looking and even negotiating now for the ability to telework. A Virginia company completed a survey where 64% of their respondents said they would turn down a job that offered a 20% raise if it meant giving up their ability to telework. Employers can reduce hiring and recruiting costs because there is a direct correlation between job satisfaction and morale increasing when telework is implemented, which ultimately reduces turnover. Implementing the ability to telework increases flexibility, reduces commute times, and again, improves morale and job satisfaction. So there is life outside of work, and telework gives us the ability to better balance between the two. Absenteeism declines when employees have the ability to telework. It's estimated that unscheduled absences cost American employers between $1,800 to $3,600 per year per employee, according to Global Meet. Organizations are able to maintain their current office space, even if they are hiring additional staff by allowing employees to telework and share office space. Many surveys and studies have been done which confirm that those who telework are typically more productive. You usually have less disruptions, reduced commutes, and employees value telework, so they're usually more conscious of their work habits. Keep in mind, though, that this pandemic remote telework is not normal telework, so you may not be experiencing the full effect of increased productivity because of this situation that we're in with the IT issues and the household distractions that you wouldn't normally have in your normal telework situations. This is a benefit shared by all. The environmental impacts as a result of more people staying at home is undeniable. Take a look at these side-by-side photo comparisons of New York and LA before the pandemic and then several months afterwards. A picture really is worth 1,000 words. So while telework is first and foremost a business strategy for companies, there are certainly benefits that extend to employees. The ability to better balance work demands with everything else we have going on in our lives is important. Increased job satisfaction is a benefit that many employees experience. Part of that job satisfaction stems from the ability to better balance work and life. And then in the event of a disaster or pandemic, as we're in, employees want to continue to work, but in as safe of an environment as possible. And telework allows the ability to do that. And while increased productivity is certainly a benefit to the employer, it's also beneficial to the employee, because if we can get more things off our to-do list more efficiently, it helps us to alleviate that pressure. But the number one benefit that most employees recognize is cost savings. Global workplace statistics indicate employees who work remotely half of the time actually can save $2,500 to $4,000 a year. And that's almost like a raise. And you can double those numbers in a full-time remote work situation. So where you're likely saving your money is from gas, car maintenance, dry cleaning and laundry, lunch and coffee, which really can start to add up, and buying professional clothing. So I want to shift gears to talk a little bit about the management training that Telework VA provides. We talk about these common traits of successful remote managers because employers may be managing a remote workforce for a little bit longer, and telework in some capacity may very well become part of your long-term plan. But successful remote managers trust in their employees. They have the ability to evaluate results. They use open and frequent communication, and they are flexible in approaching new processes and solutions. We help management to focus on managing by results. It's not just the way that we should manage remote workers and teleworkers. It's the way that we should also manage in the office. It's about focusing on the outcome of the work. Is it timely? Is the quality of work there? How efficient can the work be done? And can work be prioritized effectively? However, in order for us to successfully manage by results, you have to have measurable deliverables. You need to provide clear and detailed instructions. Tasks should contain action items. Deadlines should be realistic. Make it clear what the priorities are. Evaluate the outcome. Was it timely? Was it a quality job? Or did it look like it was rushed and thrown together? It's really important to include staff in this process of managing by results so that those measurable deliverables are realistic. The goal is to get the work done effectively and efficiently, and setting unrealistic goals doesn't really benefit anyone. So this pandemic has changed the way we work really in so many ways. It's important that we embrace change when it comes to new processes and solutions, because there just might be a better and more efficient way of doing what we've always done. Be open-minded and listen to suggestions from the people who do the work. Step out on a limb and try something new if the possibility is there that it might lend a better result. We also provide customized training for employees as part of the Telework VA services. The employee training cover best practices, planning and organizing, time management, and communication. Self-management, as well as any specific issues or concerns that need to be addressed. Training is a really important part of a telework program because it lays the foundation and sets the stage for what's expected of employees. We're going to now move into our last section of the agenda, which is the Telework best practices. And before we get into those best practice details, I want to address some of the most important tips that can make or break your telework experience. Even though we've been at this now for about 10 months, you might still be fighting the fact that your environment has changed and you probably don't have everything at home that you're used to having at the office, and your coworkers aren't there. Well, some of you actually may be happy about that, but it's important that you embrace telework and accept the fact that this is still the new norm for now. Holding on to the way things were can be counterproductive. You also want to take some time to organize your telework environment and help you be more productive. It's a new year now, so let's take a moment to organize your information in files as well as your workspace. Studies have shown the benefits of being organized improves sleep, reduces stress, reduces depression, and makes you more productive. And some of you may be working with sensitive and secure data that you need to protect and keep confidential. This is certainly a make or break situation. Please remember to follow your agency or company protocols for protecting that data. I've also heard many complaints about back problems and neck problems since the pandemic began. I want you to take a look at how you're sitting right now, and let's go through these together. You want to make sure that you keep your head aligned, that you're not stretching your neck. Your eyes should be looking straight ahead. This is certainly helpful on video conference calls as well as to align your eyes with the camera. You want to sit as far from the screen as possible. Your shoulders should always be in a relaxed position. Your keyboard should be seated at elbow height. If you're using a laptop, this will have to be adjusted as well. But your wrist should be straight when typing. Your fingers shouldn't be elevated or lower than your wrist. Your chair should support the curve in your lower back. I like to use a back support pillow to help me with this. Your feet should be flat on the floor or on a footrest. For Christmas, I asked for a new ergonomic footrest that's really soft, and I love it. So definitely makes a difference. And make sure that you're getting up to take frequent breaks. Oftentimes people do tend to sit at their desk longer when they're at home as opposed to working in the office. And so sitting there much longer sometimes can take a toll on your neck and your back. So take those breaks when you need to. This has been a common theme among the masses who are working from home as far as tackling IT issues. And while there are so many different IT issues going on right now that are unique to each individual, I want to provide some generic tips to help. First of all, you want to make sure that you communicate the issues that you're having to management. Not that they can resolve the issue, but so that they're aware that productivity might be impacted. Keep a log of the issues that you're having. This will be helpful if you have an opportunity to troubleshoot with an IT professional and you can quickly refer to what the issues are you're having. If you're having issues with communication platforms or other apps, there are tons of online tutorials that you can access for free. There have also been lots of complaints about bandwidth issues and slow networks. So households have multiple people streaming, your kids are in school virtually, we're conferencing on calls, and you may have kids that are playing on devices, and it's definitely taken its toll. So here are some suggestions that you can try for faster speed. I want to talk about building your dream home office. I realize that we're dealing with the hand that we've been dealt, but if telework continues in some capacity in the future, this can be part of your aspirations. In your technology toolkit, we're assuming your internet set up in place, and you'll certainly have your laptop or your desktop. However, adding a second monitor for multi-display is preferable, can really help in terms of productivity. Some of you may have certainly had this type of setup in the office, but it can definitely help with efficiency. You'll also need, of course, your cell phone, your work issued or personal phone, but it's helpful to have headphones with a microphone, particularly if you have issues with the sound on your devices. Headphones can definitely help you project more clearly on conference calls so that you don't sound muffled or far away. It's also a good idea to have a privacy screen for added security, particularly for those of you who are dealing with sensitive data. For furniture, certainly you want to have a desk that fits the room size, but has enough space for you to work efficiently. A comfortable chair is very important, but it needs to support your lower back, as I've mentioned. And you also want to have your other supplies and things like that that you may need, perhaps a filing cabinet or a scanner. But on to space. The best option is a separate area with a door to maximize privacy, if you can. You also want a window for natural light. Research has proven that natural lighting helps people to be more productive, happier, healthier, calmer, boosts vitamin D, and can help ward off seasonal depression. And then you also want to add, a natural lighting source as well, indirect lighting source, to ensure adequate and functional lighting in the workspace. And you want to consider the placement of your light to avoid casting shadows on your desk and make sure that you're not working under the direct glare of overhead lights. You want to add indoor live plants as well, because they don't just spruce up the decor, but studies have shown they clean indoor air by absorbing toxins, increasing humidity, and producing oxygen. They can also boost mood, productivity, concentration, and creativity while reducing stress, fatigue, sore throats, and colds. Since you'll be spending a good amount of time in this area, you want to try and transform it to your happy place by adding decor that you like and enjoy. Some people like to add stress balls or things that can take their mind off of work for a minute. Some like fountains and things that soothing, like the sound of water. But whatever you do, you want to be able to boost your concentration in a way that works for you. So for example, I like to work in silence. I can focus and concentrate better. And this pandemic has been a real challenge for me because I have 2 kids that are home. My husband is home, who never teleworked before. So it has been definitely a challenge. But you might be the type of person that silence just drives you crazy. You need, maybe some music in the background or a television in the background. There are no wrong answers for what boosts your concentration. You just need to focus on what that is, because everyone is different. Find what works best for you. The key in all of this really is comfort. Studies have shown that when people are comfortable, morale increases and productivity as well. So the reason that I didn't put a picture of an ideal home office is because one size just doesn't fit all. And at the end of the day, design your workspace to work for you. If that looks completely different for you and you have your work couch and your laptop and you're happy, then so be it. So we also have been talking a lot about managing anxiety and stress. And so since the pandemic, we're trying to maintain our productivity, but we're also trying to manage our new levels of anxiety. And this is affecting us all in really different ways. The first thing you want to do is step away by taking those morning, afternoon, and lunch breaks, particularly now, just like you would do in the office. You want to keep a schedule and have a designated start and end time, and try really hard not to work beyond your designated hours for your mental health. You want to stay connected with others. Social distancing and working remotely can really leave us feeling disconnected from everyone. So maximizing the use of our communication tools is helpful. And sometimes really just seeing a coworker's face can be therapeutic. Make sure that you get enough rest, that you try to eat well-balanced meals, and that you try to get some form of exercise. And you want to make time for enjoyment. Whatever you do that you like to do, that's not violating any guidelines, whatever, make time to do that. And if you're really struggling with managing anxiety and stress, you should seek help and support. The link for the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health has provided 24-hour helplines and guidance for emotional health resources and managing stress. And the CDC website also has helplines. So part of what's contributing to our stress are all of the distractions that we're dealing with when we're trying to work at home. Most of you probably have a laundry list of distractions. The first thing that we need to realize is that they're not going away. So we have to take them seriously and find a way to overcome them. So the first step is to identify your specific distraction, because what might be a distraction to you might not be for us. So out of all of your distractions, sort of pick one, and we're going to do a little bit of an exercise right now. So here's the one that I'm going to do. I'm identifying my distraction, which I mentioned my husband is now teleworking. We have an office space that we both have our own desk in the office space, but he has conference calls, I have conference calls, and we've had situations where we're both on the phone at the same time. So it is a distraction. So we had to come up with a strategy. The first thing that we decided to do with the strategy is just to have a quick chat first thing in the morning about our schedules so that we can plan ahead for these issues. So that was part of our strategy. The other thing that we did as part of our strategy is we created a sign that goes on the door. It's on the door right now, which is closed. It says video conference call in session, right? So that way he knows that I'm on a conference call. My kids know that I'm on a conference call, so they don't barge in and say, Mom, what's for dinner or whatever. So this is my strategy. So I'm setting those ground rules. I'm establishing what the solution is, and then we assess and adjust. So we need to do this for all of our distractions and come up with a realistic approach that is going to work for us. Because again, they're not going to go away on their own. So we have to strategize and we have to plan. So if you put a strategy in place and you determine that it's not working, reassess and adjust. Figure out what is going to work and continue to strategize until you find something that works. So time management is an important factor in being a successful teleworker. We've already talked about building a workday routine, but you want to try to, again, start at the same time, lunch at the same time, and end at the same time. It helps to keep you focused. And because of the flexibility that working at home brings, many of us work anytime and all the time, but you want to try and work primarily when your supervisor works and your coworkers, because this will help to eliminate unnecessary waiting for responses, collaborations, and decisions. And the team knows when you're available. You want to block your biggest online distractors. If there are social media outlets or websites that you frequent and you wonder, where has the time gone? It's an online distractor that you have to manage. So we just talked about those pandemic-related household distractions, but what about those normal household distractions that we all experience? You know, when we telework, like, you know, wanting to fold that basket of laundry or washing those dishes or things like that. My recommendation is that if those household things are a distraction to you during your workday, then you have to utilize your time and manage your time and figure out how to address that distraction. So for example, if that basket of laundry is bothering you, in your morning break, go ahead and fold that laundry basket and get back to work. You know, at lunchtime, go ahead and empty the dishwasher and get back to work. Utilize and figure out how to manage your time so that you are managing these distractions and able to be efficient and effective with getting your job done. But before you start for the day, you want to take a moment to think about what's priority in today's workload. You know, are there any other ways that you can manage the workload more effectively? I suggest that you use a telework task worksheet like what you see here. There's nothing significant about this simple sheet. You can certainly use it in the office too, but the purpose is to utilize the power of making lists. It's one of the best ways I know to drive clarity and action. Try to do your challenging task when you're fresh. Your concentration and focus will be much better. And when you find yourself wandering and lethargic, go ahead and take a quick break to refocus. I've also mentioned this before, but I cannot stress it enough. You want to try to avoid overworking, as it is a common practice among teleworkers, but you also want to avoid underworking and be sure that you're meeting the expectations with the hours that you work. There are tons of apps that may help your time management skills and boost productivity. I don't use any of them, so I don't make any recommendations, but that might be something that works for you. If you can mark your calendar, make your calendar visible to your supervisor and coworkers, it will certainly help everyone know what your schedule looks like for the day and when you're available. So as I wrap up, I want to talk about the big shift. So throughout history, there have been major shifts that have propelled us forward, like the big shift from candlelight to electricity. But no matter how beneficial the shift is, we like to hold on to what we're comfortable and familiar with. We made the big shift from the horse and buggy to the automobile. It took us about 23 years to make this transition, and longer in some regions. But sometimes we are reluctant to embrace change because of the fear of the unknown. So this pandemic has catapulted telework forward, and we're beginning another big shift from the old way of working in the office to telework and remote work. As we're preparing to transition back to the workplace, companies will face the fork in the road. They'll have to make some fundamental decisions about where work will be done going forward. Those who embrace the big shifts but with strategy, awareness, and understanding will be better equipped to weather this storm and the storms to come. So as a recap, Telework VA can help your managers and employees telework successfully. We can help develop a post-COVID telework strategy, and we can help you plan your transition strategy, all for free. Thank you again for your time today. Our points of contact are noted here. Please reach out to us if you would like more information about assistance. I think we have time for a few questions. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Priscilla, I think.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Emily. That was, I took tons of notes. So thank you for doing that with us. We really appreciate it because it has been a shift. And as you mentioned, you know, none of us had planned for this. And we went home in the middle of March and we were told, okay, you're going to be home for 2 weeks. And then we were told, okay, you're going to be home for 2 months. And now it's gone to 10 months. And so, you know, I know it has been a working process for everyone. What do you think it will take to get us back to those office bonds that we had? You know, I mean, chances are we're going to be teleworking at least the next couple of years as we deal with this pandemic and whatever, you know, whatever is to follow. You know, we want to make sure that as you know, new people come on board, they get that camaraderie that, you know, if you don't have the monthly cupcake ceremonies and, you know, all of that, how do you build that?
So for, you know, what we have to remember is that for many people, this telework experience is really new, right? And so just like we have learned to connect and communicate in the office, you know, with, you know, we will have to learn how to communicate in a remote work environment, in doing that remotely. And that takes practice. It's not intuitive. You know, we're all trying to get used to, you know, the Zoom calls of communicating, and how do we keep collaboration? How do we keep these ways of communication going? It's difficult to do in a remote work environment, but it takes us actually continuing to practice and to do that and to get better at communicating virtually, because that's what we're all really learning how to do. The reality is, you know, at some point in time, we will return to some normalcy, and the majority of firms will not be in this remote work situation. You know, I actually heard a statistic this morning that, you know, once this pandemic is over, probably 1% of companies will continue working in a full-time 100% remote work situation. So that's important to keep in mind. 99% of companies are going to go back to a situation where they're working in the office, but they may have a robust telework program in place where their people are teleworking maybe 1 day or 2 days a week. And so, or maybe 3 days, but it won't be a full-time remote work situation. And so the key really is just to remember that connecting, that collaboration, that communication it takes strategy and figuring out how to best do that in the situation that we're in the remote work situation that we're in, and how are we going to do that when we move back to transitioning more back to the office.
And if I could add, we actually had in our agency 2 new employees start work after COVID, after we were working from home. And many of us did not have video cameras in our work laptops. So they went out and got external, I'm working from one right now, an external video video camera. And what was helpful to us, particularly for those new employees, was to having that video rather than just the phone call, rather just the voices, so that they can meet people and feel somewhat connected. Now, we certainly don't recommend having the video on every time you're talking to an employee. You can overdo it. But I think that we feel like, and with the feedback we had, was that the videos actually helped make those connections. And for those more social people in the office who like to see, walk down the Sally's office and say hi to her, the video helped with those relationships.
And we have a question from one of my colleagues, and Holly is a perfect example. She was supposed to start working for us the day we all left. So the day we all furloughed, and then she started working for us in August. And so she had to sort of join in progress type thing. So Holly has a question. Anna, you can open Holly's microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
We do.
Yes.
So my question was just, you mentioned that kind of pandemic aside, the average position that's deemed like telework appropriate is only 1 to 2 days a week from home. How is that usually decided? Like, does the manager just kind of pick usually, or can the employee like advocate for days that like work best for them, like being home? How does that usually work?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. Typically, this is a business decision that is determined by the employer. And they usually have evaluated their telework program, and it also includes a couple of different factors. What are the goals that they are trying to determine? What are they trying to accomplish with their telework program? And so that's usually what they look at. The person's position and how conducive it is to teleworking, whether 1 day makes a difference versus 2 days or 3 days. Quite a few factors go into place to determine really what is that sweet spot in terms of when how often an employer should telework. And so you mentioned about negotiating for more time if necessary. All of these things are discussions that you can have with a manager in terms of justifying or saying, I think that I would be more productive on a 3-day or versus a 2-day. All of those things are certainly things that you can have discussions about, but it really boils down to the employer and what their goals are for their program and what they're trying to accomplish, and whether they think 3 days or 2 days or 1 day is appropriate. And
Emily,
we try to work
with that employer in helping them to determine what makes the best sense.
Emily and Chris, you both have been working on this for a number of years. And, I'm sure in the beginning you had companies say, absolutely not. I'm not letting people telework. And now, they're learning that everybody can if they have to. Tell us a little bit about sort of the change in the corporate mindset.
Chris, you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will give you some perspective from my agency. And we might have being a different line of work than private businesses, but the same management and things, mentality kind of prevails. And we had a lot of doubters in our own agency about telework. And here we are, we had a telework program, right? And so, that's always a constant battle of perspective of, if I can't see my employees, how do I know they're working? And from our agency, like I said, we had some doubters. And when we went to full-time, they were really going, oh, this is never going to work. We're going to have to force people back at the office. And they are now saying, you know what? I was wrong. It actually worked. And I think the reason why it works is because from an employee perspective, it's a privilege before COVID to work from home. It's not something that, the business has to let them do. So most employees aren't going to mess that up, right? They're going to make sure that they're working hard and making sure their supervisor knows that they're working. But it's just a matter of you have to trust your employees for one. And we always say, if you've got an employee that doesn't work well in the office, they're probably not going to work well out of the office, and vice versa. If you got an employee who works really well in the office, they're probably going to do all right at home. Obviously there's some challenges as we mentioned with distractions at home that you don't get at the office. But I think it's more of just, I think now with the practice that we're in practice, it's people are kind of going, it can work. Maybe we don't want to do it full time, after COVID's gone, but we can do this and still be productive. And I think productivity is showing that and keying on those factors of what makes an employee productive, whether they're in the office or not, and focusing on the work and not necessarily where they are.
And I would like to add, here at Hampton Roads Transit, our traffic department, we had been teleworking just 1 day a week. So we do outreach, so we actually physically meet with, employers and military installations in the area. And I think something that we did was we did have a telework worksheet, a project list on what we're working on. And, communication is key. Transparency is key. Keep your calendars updated. Let us know what's going on, what you need help with, especially with the IT issues, because we tend to have them every now and then, and with my team letting me know, hey, I can't get on this call because, the IT, logging into the laptop is an issue. Just again, communication and transparency has been key to it. And I think a lot of people here at Hampton Roads Transit, who were doubters now are not as much and are really embracing the telework, mentality.
And I think we've all learned that there are certain meetings that don't have to be face-to-face, that you're much more productive. You can do an hour's worth of business in a Zoom meeting than if you have that half-hour travel time, then the 10-minute chit-chat, then the meeting, then the 10-minute chit-chat, and the half-hour travel time. You condensed it down to an hour. So, but I do miss the chit-chat. I really do. I'm a people person. This has been fantastic, and we truly appreciate all of your help. And it's been phenomenal that this service is free. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. The Hampton Roads Chamber, we really are trying to work with the issues that are facing all of us right now. And so our next chamber education is coming up on February 16th, and talking about virtual team bonding and how you can really, we can build that out a little more and really talk about how you can do those birthday celebrations and cupcake parties that I miss. And so that's going to be February 16th from 12 to 1. It's a Zoom, again, no cost to participate. And I'm, part of my job is to gather sponsorships for the Hampton Roads Chamber. So we are looking for sponsors for this chamber education program so that we can bring it to the participants for free. We want people to get this valuable training and information that you need right now. But we do need some sponsors to help us cover some of our costs. So just if your company is interested, just give me a call or find me on my email, and we would certainly love to work with you on that. The other thing we're also doing is we're building out our Power of Women programs to address some of the issues that, working women we're having it hard right now. It's, I know my son is downstairs doing a Zoom right now for school, and, so we're doing an emotional self-care session, and that's coming up on March 3rd, and that'll be a Power of Women at 10 o'clock in the morning. Again, no cost to participate. And again, valuable information. This is from an EAP expert, and a lot of the smaller companies may not even have access to resources such as that. So again, we have one more. Okay, thank you to Angela Meyer. I will get you that information. They're interested in sponsorship. So yay, everybody. So thank you all so much. This has been so informative. If you need anything more, feel free to reach out to us or reach out to our panelists. And again, absolutely look into Telework VA or Telework Virginia, whichever way you want to say it. And hopefully we're all going to be as productive and as successful as we can be. And this pandemic will make us all stronger.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
For having us.
Thank you.